In previous lessons, you learned about SAS capabilities and the overall programming process. You learned to open a SAS program, navigate the SAS windowing environment, submit the program, and view your output. You also learned about SAS libraries and how to get assistance by using SAS help and documentation. In this lesson, you learn about SAS code itself. First, you learn about the structure of SAS programs. Then, as you work with SAS programs, you'll add descriptive comments and diagnose and correct syntax problems. Finally, you'll save the program for future use. Here's what you learn in this lesson. As the new programmer, you've inherited many programs from other SAS programmers at Orion Star. One program you've inherited creates the new sales IMPS dataset and 2 reports based on this data. You view this program to identify the components of a SAS program. From a previous lesson, you already know that proc and data steps are the main components of a SAS program. Now, let's see how you identify data and proc steps in a SAS program. SAS compiles and executes each step independently, based on what are known as step boundaries, which determine when SAS statements take effect. When SAS encounters certain statements, it recognizes a step boundary. For example, a run statement or a quit statement indicates the end of the current step. Run statements execute previously entered SAS statements in a step. Quit statements work like run statements for some SAS procedures. A data statement or a proc statement indicates the beginning of a new step. A data step or a proc step is over when SAS encounters another step. This means that the run statement isn't required for the program to execute successfully. The enhanced editor separates steps with a horizontal line. Take a moment to answer a quick question. As the new programmer, you need to understand the syntax of SAS programs to prevent programming errors. In this case, you use the program that creates the new sales IMPS dataset and 2 reports based on this data. You view this program to learn about SAS syntax and standard formatting conventions. SAS has specific syntax. However, SAS statements are free format. That is, they can begin and end anywhere. In SAS, you can have as much or as little white space as you want. To separate words in a SAS statement, use blanks or special characters. Statements must end with a semicolon. That's how SAS knows that it's reached the end of a statement. According to SAS syntax rules, you can begin or end a statement in any column and span multiple lines. You can also put multiple statements on one line. In this example, a new programmer has followed SAS syntax rules correctly. However, this program might be difficult for other programmers to use. To make your code easier for other programmers to read or use, you can follow these guidelines. Put one statement on each line. Include a run statement after every data step or proc step. Separate each step with a line space. Begin data, proc, and run statements in column 1, and indent the other statements to make your program easier to read. Notice that this program uses lowercase and mixed case. SAS syntax isn't generally case sensitive, although some items within quotation marks are case sensitive. SAS stores and displays names by using the case provided. You learn more about naming conventions in a later lesson. Notice how much more easily you can understand the example now that the code follows standard formatting conventions. Stop and answer a question about SAS syntax rules. Suppose other programmers will use the program you've inherited, the one that creates the new sales EMPS dataset and 2 reports based on this data. You need to add comments to this program to make it easier for others to follow. You've learned that although SAS statements are free format, following some simple guidelines makes your code easier for other programmers to use. Another way to make your code easier for someone else to follow is to use comments. A comment is text in your program that SAS ignores during processing. Comments can help you understand a program at a later time or help other programmers understand your program. For example, you can use comments anywhere in a SAS program to document the purpose of the program, explain segments of the program, or mark SAS code as non-executing text. Using comments to mark SAS code as non-executing text is also called commenting out code. Comments can also help you test your SAS programs in stages. By commenting out your error-free code, you can use comments to submit only the steps that you need. When your entire program is error-free, you can remove the comment symbols without damaging the SAS program. Let's take a closer look at comments. A SAS comment begins and sometimes ends with a comment symbol. In SAS, you can create comments in 2 ways. Using the first method, called a block comment, you begin with a / and asterisk, add your comment, and end with an asterisk and /. SAS processes block comments as a string of individual characters. These comments can appear anywhere a single blank can appear and can contain semicolons or unmatched quotation marks. So you might want to use a block comment to add a comment within a statement. Avoid placing block comment symbols in the first or second columns. In some operating environments, SAS might interpret block comment symbols in columns 1 and 2 as a request to end the SAS job or session. Using the second method, you can begin any SAS statement with an asterisk so that the text up to the semicolon is a comment. Comments in this form are complete statements. They can't contain semicolons or unmatched quotation marks.
Next, let's see how you add comments to a SAS program. We begin with the example code. Suppose you want to be sure that another programmer understands the variable salary is numeric. You can add a block comment immediately following the variable name. Begin with a / followed by an asterisk, and end with an asterisk followed by a /. Remember that SAS ignores any text between the comment symbols. Let's assume that you want to provide another comment indicating the SAS dataset created and used by this portion of code. Let's use the asterisk and semicolon form of comment here. You begin the comment with an asterisk, and the comment ends with a semicolon at the end of the statement. You can also comment out a step. For example, let's assume that you don't want to use the proc print statement now, so we want to comment it out. Let's submit the code and look at the log window. Notice that SAS didn't process the portions of code that were commented out. You can see that the data set was created and that the proc means step created output, but the proc print step that was commented out produced no other messages or output.
Now, try practicing in your SAS software. Suppose that when you tried to use one of the programs you've inherited, it didn't run successfully. You need to identify the problem and correct the errors. You use the program that creates the new sales IMPS dataset and 2 reports based on this data. This program has some inherent errors that you need to diagnose and correct. Now that you know the components of a SAS program and you can add comments, let's consider syntax errors. Syntax errors occur in code that doesn't conform to the rules of the SAS language. Some common syntax errors are misspelled keywords, unmatched quotation marks, missing semicolons, and invalid operators. This program doesn't contain any invalid operators. Spelling and syntax errors are the most common problems. These errors tend to generate log messages about invalid syntax or unknown keywords. This example includes some errors. Misspelling file, variable, or other names is considered a spelling error. The enhanced editor uses the color red to indicate a potential error in your SAS code. Notice that the misspelled word DAAT is displayed in red. This misspelling affects other statements following it. Code can also contain logic errors. You learn about logic errors later in this course. When you submit a SAS program, SAS scans each statement for syntax errors as it compiles each step. If no syntax errors are found, SAS processes the step. Then, SAS goes to the next step and repeats the process. When SAS encounters a syntax error, SAS attempts to interpret what you mean. If it can't interpret the error, SAS stops processing the step, underlines the error, and writes an error message in the log. Then, SAS goes to the next step and repeats the process. When you check the log and find a syntax error, you need to correct your code. To make it easier to see the latest messages, you can clear the log window before you resubmit the code for processing. Before you see a demonstration, answer a question.
Now let's see how you diagnose and correct syntax errors. First, let's submit this program to create a dataset and print a report from it. Of course, we know that the code contains an error and we need to correct it. Sometimes you might not recognize that the program didn't run correctly by looking at the output, so it's important to review the log messages each time you submit a SAS program. Let's look at the log. To review errors, it's best to start at the top of the program and work down. The log message includes the word error or warning, the location of the error, and an explanation of the error. Notice that there is a warning message. In this case, SAS resolved the issue by assuming that DAAT was simply data misspelled. A warning means that SAS was able to perform the action. In this case, SAS processed the data step. But this is a rare situation, as SAS might not always be able to interpret your misspelled words. Next, notice that the run statement is underlined. In this case, the previous line is missing the semicolon. The message syntax error, expecting one of the following, lets us know that something was missing. Consider how SAS processed this program. SAS started with the proc print statement and kept going until it reached the semicolon at the end of the run statement. So SAS thought that the proc print and the run statements were all one statement. SAS interpreted run as an option for proc print and printed an error message about an invalid option. Notice that SAS did list the semicolon as one of the expected options. Now look at the next error message. Here's a question. What kind of error probably caused the error message? In this case, the proc mean statement contains an invalid option. Average should have been mean. However, you might not have caught that because you haven't learned proc means yet. To correct the errors, we modify the program. Since we're using the editor window, the submitted code remains in the window. As you learned earlier, In the editor, we can type over the incorrect text, delete text, or insert text. We change DAAT to DATA, add the missing semicolon, and change average to mean. To avoid confusing old error messages with new error messages, let's clear the messages in the log window before we resubmit the code. To submit only a section of code in the editor window, we highlight the selected code and click the Submit tool. Now let's review the output. We can see that the program worked quite differently this time. Let's check the log to be sure. The log indicates that our program ran correctly.
Now, try practicing in your SAS software. Suppose you have a program that creates a data set and generates 2 reports. You submit the program, but it doesn't seem to stop running, and it doesn't produce results. The program has unbalanced quotation marks. For this type of error, you must cancel processing before you can fix the error and resubmit the program. You're familiar with correcting a misspelled word. Now, let's look at a more difficult type of syntax error, unbalanced quotation marks. Unlike missing semicolons, which generate a log message indicating the error, unbalanced quotation marks might not generate a log message. Instead, often the main symptom is a message such as proc print running in the title bar of an active programming window. This symptom also occurs when a run or other step boundary statement is missing. To correct unbalanced quotation marks, you must go the extra step to cancel the submitted statement, then correct the error and resubmit. In SAS, a quotation counter keeps count of the quotation marks in your code. SAS expects an even number of quotation marks. If SAS detects an uneven number of quotation marks, the code won't execute properly. When your program contains unbalanced quotation marks, SAS misreads both the statement containing the error and any following statements. Although SAS allows either single or double quotation marks, you can't mix the types. If you use one type to begin and a different type to end, SAS considers the quotation marks unbalanced. Another sign of unbalanced quotation marks is an error message in the log. A warning in the SAS log stating that a quoted string has become too long, or that a statement that contains quotation marks is ambiguous, sometimes indicates unbalanced quotation marks. In fact, any log message about a quoted string should alert you to the possibility of unbalanced quotation marks. In some cases, all of the SAS statements after the missing quotation mark are considered part of a string and not recognized. So SAS might not display a message in the log. If you're working in the editor window, you should also notice that there's a problem because much of the program is colored purple. In the editor window, purple represents anything that belongs in quotation marks. To fix unbalanced quotation marks, you might assume you could add one quotation mark and resubmit this code. However, this approach usually doesn't solve the problem. SAS is keeping track of the quotation marks and still considers the quotation marks to be unbalanced. If you correct the error now, SAS just adds an even number of quotation marks to the total. The quotation mark count would still be uneven. So, you need to resolve the unbalanced quotation marks by canceling the submitted statements before you correct and resubmit the program. To cancel submitted statements in the Windows operating environment, you click the Break tool and select Cancel Submitted Statements. You'll learn how to do this in the next demonstration. For more information on canceling the submitted statement in Unix or ZOS, click Unix or ZOS. Canceling the submitted statements stops the data step from running and counting the quotation marks. For ZOS, click Unix or ZOS. Canceling the submitted statements stops the data step from running and counting the quotation marks. However, the original program is still incorrect. Now, you can continue by correcting the error and resubmitting the program. Of course, after you've corrected the error, you save the corrected program. When you make changes to the program in the editor window, but haven't saved the new version of the program, the title bar displays an asterisk beside the program name. You'll learn how to save programs in the next demonstration. When you save the program, the asterisk disappears, and a note indicates that the statements are saved to the file. Be careful here to save the contents of the correct window. If the output window is active when you save, then you save the output. If the log window is active when you save, then you save the log. In this case, you want to save the program, so make sure that the editor window is the active window. Now, try answering some questions. Now, try answering this question.
Let's see how to cancel submitted statements and correct a missing quotation mark in a SAS program.
If you are using SAS Enterprise Guide to take this course, you can click Skip to go to the next topic. Now practice using your SAS software. Here's what you learned in this lesson. Now, test your understanding by taking the lesson quiz.